Seems like the sun woke up a little bit earlier than expected this morning, so hope everyone's adjusting well. Um, this morning we have Reverend Onryu Kennedy, and she's going to talk a bit about her experience with Zuise. Um, Reverend Onryu Kennedy was ordained in 2012 and received transmission from her teacher, Byakuren Ragir. In 2019 and 2020, she attended 3-month practice periods at Toshoji, and in 2017 at Tassajara. In the spring of 2020, she was the Shuso there at Toshoji, and that is the head monk of that practice period. In 21, she received transmission from Eido Reinhart, and that's in Uchiyama Roshi's lineage. And let's see. Throughout her life, she has valued social justice work as an expression of her bodhisattva vow. And from 2010 to 21, she was one of the leaders at Clouds and Water Zen Center. She co-coordinated to bring Fleet Maull to teach on Engaged Buddhism in 2013. And she coordinated the Interfaith Bearing Witness Retreat Conference and the Winyan Awanyankapi Protecting the Lifegivers Conference, and those were in 2016 and 2019. She has an MA in counseling psychology and has worked with children and families for 22 years. And she recently completed a year-long training on Engaged Buddhism at Upaya Zen Center. So please take it away, Onryu. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. That was wonderful. Well done. It's great to see everybody. Yeah, it's quite wonderful. I'm a little overwhelmed because it's good to see everyone, and this talk is very intimate for me, and it's interesting to me that the digesting of the experience of Zuise is not just digesting Zuise, it's digesting my humanity in relationship to the practice. Zuise is an experience of that. So I just want to acknowledge my feelings of vulnerability. So good morning. I'd like to give a shout out to Hokioji and my deep appreciation at the invitation to share my practice with each of you and to share what I've been learning in relationship to this practice. I'd like to thank Dokai particularly and all the practitioners who take care of the land and the temple. It's no small matter. And I also want to acknowledge I am committed to no more than a half hour because I want to hear from you, your responses, and what feelings arose for you in relationship to what you heard in this conversation. This is really important to me. I understand my Dharma position right now, taking the seat and talking about what I've learned. And also, it's in connection with each of you and all beings. And this is how we learn and refine each other and help each other in our humanity. So I want to be very transparent and kind of on time. I would like to also offer homage. I acknowledge I'm on the homelands of the Dakota and Anishinaabe nations. Oh, hi, Ken. Hi. It's good to see you. It's good to see you too, Barbara. I love them both. I love all of you. I love Ken and Barbara too. I continue to learn the truth of genocide and racism and how this karma is alive today. I'm not separate from this past. I'm committed to going through it in the present and pivoting the karma to my capacity. I offer homage to the Buddhas and ancestors from India. I offer homage to Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and all Asian Buddhist ancestors. Through their generosity and compassion, I am able to study and practice Buddhism today. I want to also acknowledge our teachers and our friends and families who support our capacity to practice in this way. As I talk about, I'm not really going to talk. I'm going to tell a story. I'm finding that stories are more powerful than talking. Stories offer the possibility of creating a narrative, a different kind of narrative. So right now, I'm all about creating a different kind of narrative. And through stories, I have the possibility of doing just that. So this is my story. And this story is not linear. It flows backwards, forwards, sideways, all around through space-time. This story is endless and is not complete. And I gotta say, I'm not dead yet. And I haven't died, so I don't know if the story is ended when I die. But I do know right now, this story is endless. I want to begin with a koan. Case 20 in Book of Serenity, Daizan's Nearness. I recently listened to a talk on this koan by Okamura Roshi and bring his view and interconnect it with my view. And I'd like to say that I'm going to use the Japanese names for this koan. And I apologize for any mispronunciations of these names. First, I want to read it, and then I want to go through it line by line. So this case is in Book of Serenity. So Daizan in Japanese is Jizo. Bayan in Japanese is Hogen. Jizo, and many of you already know this, but I want to give a shout out to Jizo Bodhisattva. Jizo Bodhisattva is an incredible being that goes into hell to help all beings, no matter what. Carrying a staff with a bell, that's his tool. Pretty awesome, I think. Jizo asked Hogen, "Where are you going?" Hogen said, "Around on a pilgrimage." Jizo said, "What is the purpose of this pilgrimage?" Hogen said, "I don't know." Jizo said, "Not knowing is nearest." That's Thomas Cleary's translation of this case. Now I'd like to go at line by line and include Okamura Roshi's translation. And the beauty of Okamura Roshi is he's Japanese, and he's been working a long time on translating Japanese sutras and texts into English. So what a gift to be able to study him and his translations of Japanese into English. It offers me a depth that sometimes I'm not able to get on my own. So this is a conversation between the abbot of the temple, Jizo, and a young monk, Hogen. At the time of this conversation, Hogen was a young monk who would later become a great Zen teacher and a founder of one of the five Chinese Zen school, Hogen Shu. If you're interested, there's a book by Andy Ferguson, Zen Chinese Heritage. He talks about the five schools of Chinese Zen. It's a good book. It's a little dense, but it's good. There were 3 monks. Hogen was one. There had been a storm and they had waited at the temple until it passed. As the monks were leaving, Jizo asked Hogen, "Where are you going?" Because Jizo, he's interested in this young monk. Maybe he sees something in this young monk. Hogen said, "Around on a pilgrimage, here and there, to different temples," not really knowing where he's going. Jizo said, "What is the purpose of this pilgrimage? What is your aspiration?" Hogen said, "I don't know." How many times have I said to myself, when somebody asks me a question, "I don't know. I never really thought about it." Jizo said, "Not knowing is most intimate." Thomas Cleary doesn't translate the last sentence. And that sentence is, at this, Hogan had a great realization. He woke up. Okamura said, nearest is not an accurate translation. Not knowing, most intimate. It is the feeling we have. This is so dramatic and so beautiful, because this is how I felt in Japan. It is the feeling we have when someone puts a knife or a sword on our body. One's attention is placed where the sword is touching the body. This intimacy is oneness, no gap, closer than near or far. This not knowing is what I experienced throughout my Zen practice. So it's not a new experience. And I think if there is a freshness about this not knowing, it's the depth of not knowing that I experienced through this process of Zuise. And I know, I want to say, I do have energy. And I'm really trying to lighten up, but sometimes experiences are so deep and so profound that there's gravity there. So I want to acknowledge the gravity that I experienced. Part of it is I traveled alone. That would not have been my first choice. But that's my karma. That is my karma. And I just kind of like scratch my head because I've been working on my karma most of my life. And still, it arises as it always has in the moment. So I just, traveling alone was beyond this mind. That meant that I had to pivot and depend on something other than my idea of how I wanted this experience to be. So that meant that I developed at a deep level my connection with people who I encountered. I depended on their kindness, the kindness of taxi drivers, of hotel staff, of clerks in the store, of bank tellers, of people walking in opposite directions of me, of monks and nuns, the weather, the snow, the trees, the crows, the sun. Depending on it all and being in relationship. Departing from Minneapolis, arriving in Tokyo, traveling to Yokohama, to the hotel, traveling back to Yokohama, to travel to Fukui, arriving at Aheiji. I'll stop there for a minute and take a breath. And may we all take a breath, because we've all experienced this, where we've been in places and spaces we've never been before. And what's an appropriate response? How do we deal with this not knowing in a way that's in relationship with all beings? Because we are, no matter if we feel it or not, we are inseparable. It's inconceivable to our ordinary minds. This not knowing is one with the Dharma. This not knowing is different than the not knowing of Hogan when Jizo asked him the question. It is my story that we've all been on a pilgrimage. You don't have to go to Japan, or as Dogen would say, leave your own home or your seat. Wherever you are, we are on a pilgrimage. To be here in this moment right here, is the culmination of our seeking. For me, it is the culmination of untangling what I thought I understood, what I thought I knew, and what I thought I had attained, and coming to not understanding, not knowing, and not attaining. It's interesting to me. I chant the Heart Sutra every day. And the other day when I was chanting it, I was like, with no attaining, the bodhisattva relies on prajna paramita. I was like, that's it. That is not knowing. No attaining. And from that open mind, wisdom has the potential to arise. That is beneficial action. Bernie Glassman speaks about the three tenets: not knowing, an open, flexible mind, bearing witness, turning towards the suffering of one's capacity, compassionate action. What action emerges from this process that is mutually beneficial and aligns with one's bodhisattva vow? This is the no attainment. This is the groundlessness. When I arrived at Aheiji, the taxi person was very kind to me. He retrieved my luggage and bowed to me. I bowed back. This bowing is quite beautiful. And it's very connecting. It was very nourishing for me to bow in return to being bowed. After I bowed back, he then got in the taxi and drove down the mountain. I was at this entrance that appeared to be empty. The entrance to Eheji it's beyond the mind, this mind. No one was around, and there were no signs no signs I could see. I thought, just walk, go forward. I entered the gate and immediately felt the fullness of space and time. The space was full of ancestors and unseen beings to my eyes. As I was walking, I saw what appeared as an entrance, a long, dark hallway, and I stepped in. I continued to walk forward and heard a voice, "Onryu-san." And I said, "Yes." As I moved into the dim light, I saw a Japanese woman who offered me red slippers and a slight smile. I bowed to her, so grateful for her kindness and warmth. She is a bodhisattva, helping this weary traveler feel connected to Endra's net. It was mind-blowing to enter this space of fullness, thinking no one was there, and to hear my name. It was unimaginable. Uchiyama Roshi states, when we let go of our conceptions, there is no other possible reality than what is right now. In that sense, what is right now and here is absolute. It's undeniable. Not only that, this undeniable reality is at the same time the reality of life that is fundamentally connected to everything in the universe. This is undeniable reality. I am inseparable to all beings and all non-beings. This is the vast net of Indra. I want to go back to actually arrive in this space and time. There was a vast network of connection happening through time for me to meet this bodhisattva at Eheji. Though the history is beyond the scope of this talk, I do want to acknowledge the Japanese ancestors who support me and all of us in our Buddhist practice. So if you imagine a tree, family tree, this is the family Dharma tree. Nishiarya Bokusan is at the top. He was the abbot of Sojiji, a prominent Japanese Soto Zen Buddhist monk. Underneath him is Oka Soten. He was his student, and he was a great teacher too. If you have a chance to read about these ancestors, it's pretty amazing. They are. Also, Okamura Roshi, in his talk, Opening the Hand of Thought, talk 2, he kind of lays this lineage out too. So that's a resource. Okasoten was the teacher to Kishozawa Ayan, Hashimoto Eko, and Sawaki Kodo. Kishozawa Ayan was Suzuki Shinro's teacher. Hashimoto Eko was Katagiri Roshi's teacher. Sawaki Kodo was Uchiyama Roshi's teacher. Uchiyama Roshi was Shahaku Okamura Roshi's teacher. So you have from Okasoten, you have these three streams, of which we're all connected in these streams. We're not separate. It's important for us to understand our Dharma heritage, our ancestors, where we come from. It's so amazing. These are our ancestors. This is our lineage. How beautiful to be a part of this network. This is who supports our practice, our ancestors. Though I was traveling alone, I was never alone. I'm noticing the time. I want to take about maybe 10 more minutes. I always am more ambitious in what I want to bring forward than what I have time for. So I just want to acknowledge that. So Zuise is a ceremony, from my understanding, that honors what I felt I was doing, was honoring Dogen Zenji and Keizan Zenji and saying thank you. I humbly thank you for supporting my practice. So that's why I went to Eheji to pay homage to Dogen Zenji, and then to Sojiji to pay homage to Keizan Zenji. Keizan Zenji isn't really acknowledged too much here from my experience, but in Japan, Keizan Zenji he's a big deal. He did a lot to transmit Zen, Soto Zen, in Japan and here too. And there's different. The ceremony of Zuise for me began on the plane, but in arriving in the temples is the actual beginning of the ceremony. So you arrive the day before, do rehearsal, have a tea, bath, spend the night. The next day you get up, do zazen, and go through the ceremony of receiving the certificates, having tea, doing the actual ceremony, having photographs, meeting the abbots, and then having breakfast, and then leaving. I want to say something about the experience of meeting the abbots. This is very significant to me. So at the end of the ceremony, we have an opportunity to meet the abbots. And there's a translator that helps. I don't speak Japanese. I'm lazy, I'll admit it. I'm working on my laziness, but better late than never. So during this time, the abbots offer a message. Both the abbots at Aheiji and Sojiji said to us there was another monk from Italy who participated in the ceremony with me. Both the abbots said to us that it's important that there's diversity and differences in Zen. We need all kinds of different people. And these differences need to be honored and upheld. That message to me had gravity. And it was a beautiful message. And it came from the root. I mean, that's unimaginable when it comes from the root. So the other thing that happened that I want to acknowledge is after the Zuise ceremony, the abbot of Sojiji approached me and stood in front of me. As he stood in front of me, he said my name. It was the voice of the Buddha saying my name. I don't recall hearing my name with that depth of compassion and presence. Time paused as I digested what I just heard and the tone in which I received my name. It was otherworldly. It was otherworldly because this Buddha, his practice had brought him where he could bring his full being and presence and embody what it is that I aspire to. He embodied the vow. But still, I can still hear him. So many acts of kindness. But I want to finish up here. I want to acknowledge specific people who really supported me. I've learned, part of the teachings that I've learned is really to acknowledge people. Tell people that I love them. Tell people that I greatly, greatly appreciate their kindness and support. I want to acknowledge Dave and Deb Kofod. They are both bodhisattvas and have supported me in 10,000 ways, including sending me care packages to Toshoji and helping me financially with Zuise. I'd also like to thank Kyoko Katayama for her bodhisattva practice, bearing witness to my spiritual process and helping by gifting me with the itinerary in both kanji and Japanese. The schedule was so precise that when I was in Fukui purchasing a ticket back to Yokohama, the clerk saw it and gave me the exact tickets for the exact time on the schedule as it was written. I didn't realize what had happened until I was on the platform and saw I was an hour early. Also, Kyoko's family in Yokohama treated me to a tour of Tokyo the day before I left Japan. I had a wonderful day with her family. We connected immediately. and I felt I had known them my whole life. When I left Tokyo that next evening, I saw the Tokyo Tower, the Sky Tower, and all the beautiful lights, orange, red, green. As the plane flew over Tokyo, I felt I was bearing witness to Indra's net. What a beautiful gift. I'd like to thank Kyoku for her help with my robes and offering me a lift to the airport at 3:15 a.m. in the morning to make my flight. I want to offer gratitude for Edie. We practiced together at Tassajara. We were the two only ordained priests. She has helped me with her presence and with her generosity. Deep Kosho. I want to end with something I'd written before I entered Sojiji. I had found a rare place to sit down and begin just to bear witness to what was before me. Watching people's feet like voices, every walk unique. How beautiful these feet, curiosity arising. What experiences have these feet walked through? Where are they going? Are they okay in this moment? Sending these feet love. Thank you for listening. So I really want to open it up and hear your thoughts, comments, what may have arisen for you.
Yeah, I believe not knowing is really the most intimate experience we can have. And I was thinking about it as you were talking. And let's say I have two kinds of not knowing experiences, and I'll just limit it to when I'm traveling, because I do that a fair amount. And sometimes I'm just scared. You were thinking people are so kind, and yeah, that's true. It happens, but sometimes they're not, especially if you're crossing a border of one developing country to another. I'm thinking like Ecuador to Peru, or Colombia to Ecuador, or Cambodia to Laos, or Cambodia to Thailand, or Thailand to Cambodia. It's like there's people there who just make a habit out of, well, trying to get as much money from you as you can. So it's like sometimes it's just scary. But another time, that's what the most intimate experience I ever had was I was just walking back from eating a meal in India, and I just kind of stopped, and I looked around and just realized that the sights, the smells, the sounds were totally, completely different from anything I normally experience. And it really, actually, for a few moments, I felt like I was like 5 or 6 years old. And it's like, if you can imagine what your mind's like when it's 5 or 6 years, it's curious, it wants to know things. It's not all the time afraid. And it's kind of delightful to see new things. And And that's what it felt like. It felt like my mind was just kind of went blank, and I was seeing everything for the first time. And that's what I would say feels like most intimate. That was one of my, as far as traveling goes, that was one of my most intimate experiences. So it's not always that way. Although I do appreciate going to a different culture where it's completely different from how we live here in the USA. So just to acknowledge that. Thank you, GD.
Ken.
Ken, I think you're muted.
Did that help?
Quite a bit.
Good, I'm unmuted. Oh, that's scary. Yes. Now let's see, what was it I wanted to ask you? I have to think of something a little different now because I've lost it. But how much, I know for me, I do an awful lot of planning, an awful lot of thinking ahead, an awful lot of trying to figure out before I jump in there. How do I overcome that? How do I trust what comes up for me with a long background of not really trusting, having to think everything through carefully? I don't know if that's a comment you can respond to or not.
Ken, that's a great question for all of us. Because I didn't just like take a flight to Japan and do Zuise, right? And then fly back. I mean, I gotta say, it's kind of dramatic to use this word. I'm sorry if I have too much energy for people, but it was a heroic process of logistical plans. I mean, I'm not a logistical person to begin with. I usually try to find friends who have that skill, but it was up to me to do the logistics, the hotels, the where I'm going to eat, where I'm going to stay, what time am I going to fly out, what time am I going to fly in. I mean, we need this thinking mind to be able to do the logistics, because we live in the relative world. We can't deny that. And also, to get to Zuise, there was a whole process to get to Zuise. I mean, doing 2 ongos in Japan. So there are these steps that I feel, because we live in the relative world, it's important to be a part and to do what is needed. I think where I get caught up is it's got to be a certain way, or it's got to look a certain way. Like Dokai was talking about the fear. I had a taxi driver who thought she was a race car driver, and it freaked me out. I mean, so yeah, I mean, things happen. So, but what's cool is to say sometimes, this isn't working. I mean, I'm confused. I'm afraid. Instead of faking it and saying, oh no, I'm not afraid, when inside I'm trembling. That's just bullshit. I mean, let's be real. Let's be vulnerable to what's actually happening. That is awesome. So I don't know if that helps, but thank you for the question. It's beautiful.
Yes, it helps. Thank you very much. And thank you for giving us all such a deep example of stepping in there and being willing to open up. I think of you from the very first time I met you at some class there at MCMC, and I felt you were so open and straightforward and clear, and I was amazed at how you absorbed what other people were asking, and your patience in stating things so we could understand them. Thank you for your practice.
And I got to say, Ken and Barbara they've had my back since day one. And I'm sorry I didn't acknowledge them in my talk, but they've had my back in 10,000 ways, taking care of my animals, taking care of my plants, taking care of me. Yeah, Barbara and Ken are gold. So I just want to acknowledge their support. So thank you, Ken.
I believe John has his hand up.
Well, actually, it's Shinko Marilyn here.
Hi.
Nice to see you again. Gosh, it's been too long. So I want to express my gratitude for your talk this morning. I felt as though in your comments of about 30 minutes, I also have been on a pilgrimage with you.
Mm.
And the pilgrimage for me is one of being so lured by the intellect and planning my pilgrimage and not going into the moment of the pilgrimage.
Mm.
And so what I heard in your talk today is that you started out with all the logistics and, the concerns, and then you stepped into Eheji and received your red slippers, and you were there. You were just there, just like Hogan, after he got slapped on a shoulder, I assume, with the sword. His understanding of pilgrimage was entirely different than when he had been asked the question. And so I wanted you to know how much I appreciate your comments, how alive they are for me. And it's such a wonderful reminder for me. I happen to be reading Suzuki Roshi's Not Always So.
Mm.
And to me, it reminds me of jumping off the 100-foot pole. Just being in that moment of the jump, not thinking about the jump, not staying at the top of the pole even for a millisecond, but just jumping into the moment. And that sounds to me like what you did. So thank you so much for your talk this morning. And it's so good to see you again. Thank you.
It's great to see you. And thank you for bearing witness and deep listening, because there was a pivot, right? When I entered Eheji, boom,
Uh-huh.
I was touching the root. I mean, yeah. So thank you. It's
Thank
good to see you too.
Yeah, thank you. I'll turn myself off now.
Yes, thank you so much for the talk. I guess I would also like to talk about the flip side of that. And first of all, thanks for bringing your energy. I really appreciate it. I like I don't know, you got gusto. I dig. Thank you. Um, but also, like, thanks for talking just about the whole process. Like it for I guess for me, like Japan and Soto Shu is like this black box that we don't know much about, and it's a big mystery that what happens over there, you know. And just thanks for talking a little bit about it and your experience while in it, you know. Um, and yeah, thanks for the appreciation of feet. I don't think about feet that much and what what people's feet have go through, you know, and being appreciative of those carrying us to all the places that we do end up going. So that was really cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's important that when we don't all need to go to Japan. I'm not saying that, but if we have the opportunity to visit, opportunities for conversation, opportunities for connection, let's seize these moments with each other, because we're relatives. We are Dharma relatives in the truest sense of the word. Whether we're Japanese, white converted Buddhists, whatever our form, we are relatives. So thank you. Let's deconstruct that black box.
Hi, Onryu. It's really great to see you.
Onryu, it's good to see you too.
Thank you for your practice and your talk. I have a question for you as it relates to not knowing, the intimacy of not knowing, and I guess how to cultivate that in a relational way with people.
Oh,
Because that's maybe one of the biggest challenges I have is trying to maintain this open mind, you know, this kind of a spirit of generosity by not knowing, especially with people that I'm most intimate with. Anything you can share about that would be appreciated.
I want to say that intimacy with people we are close to is most intimate, and it's advanced practice. So not knowing, for me, going to Japan is different than not knowing with people who are close to me, family, friends, in some cases, partners, children. So I just want to acknowledge the complexity of not knowing. Is that helpful at all?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think sometimes what I do is simplify not knowing. And as I become more familiar with it, I realize how complex and complicated this not knowing is. And it's in relationship to the conditions. It's in relationship to the people who I'm interacting with. So what not knowing, a response to not knowing in one condition is different than the next condition. It's not really ever the same, that I have found. Is that helpful at all?
It is helpful. What I take away from that is, I guess, maybe a certain level of respect for the complexity in not knowing with people you're intimate with, which may require more maybe kindness and acceptance for the complexity.
Your question is very dynamic and alive for me as well. So I want you to know I'm exploring it with you. So if you find some clarity, I am happy to hear what it is that you have found, and I will share what I have found beyond this moment.
Thank you, Onryu. And thank you, Hokyoji.
Thank you, Goryu. I just want to give a shout out to everybody. It's good to see you all. And each of you in your way, individually and collectively, have brought me to this moment. And may we continue to support each other in our practice and our growth. So thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Onryu-san.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that for today. Thank you so much from Hokyoji. Thanks for being here. Coming up, we have Myo-on Susan Hagler next week. She'll be having a Dharma talk and presenting something for us. As far as Hokyoji, our future events, we have a work weekend in April and another healing retreat from a group in the cities. And Clouds has their 3-day, starting on the 27th of April also. And then May we have a couple Caring for the Land events and a Just Sitting retreat on the 21st. So y'all tune in to hokyoji.org for more details and to sign up and all that good stuff, and follow us and like us on social medias. And yeah, we really appreciate everyone here. Thank you for your support. We exist on your support, so thank you very much for that. And there is a link in the chat if you would like to do so this morning. Other than that, y'all have a great Sunday, and we will close with the 4 vows. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it. Thank you all.